Baltimore, and to Bush and tell you the Kentucky Derby is the bigger race. This guy doesn't believe that at all. He knows the Preakness is where it's at. He is a Preakness lover and a lover of Maryland racing, as well as the host of Maryland Horse Radio, my former intern and a current friend as well. We welcome Stan Salter back onto the program to talk all things horse racing. You get any sleep this week, Stan? I mean, I know you get very, very worked up this time of year, right?
Yeah, it's our big time of the year, and we were lucky this year because the Kentucky Derby winner, Always Dreaming, he came to Pimlico the Tuesday following his Kentucky Derby win, so that's great for us. It's a different Preakness when the Derby winner plus other horses that are running in the Preakness when they come to Baltimore early, and that's what happened. He had Always Dreaming show up the Tuesday right after he won the Kentucky Derby, so he's been here for over a week. And by Tuesday afternoon, you had all the Preakness horses on the grounds at Pimlico. So it's great when they show up early. I remember some years when they were still showing up Wednesday and Thursday Preakness week, but we had a good majority of them here by last weekend. By this past Tuesday afternoon, they were all here. And Always Dreaming, he's been going out early every morning, 5:30 sharp for trainer Todd Fletcher. He looks great. And, it's just been full steam ahead since he got into town. And Todd Fletcher, a future Hall of Famer, class act. It's great to cover him. We watch the horse train in the morning. And he does a press conference about 8 o'clock in the morning. So no sleep this time of year, but we're looking forward to a great Preakness 142 this Saturday. And also the Black-Eyed Susan Day card on Friday is just absolutely through the roof. 14 races, big fields, top and bottom. We have about 160 horses total in for the day on Friday. I think it's a few more horses than we have in on Saturday, actually. Friday's Black-Eyed Susan Day, of course, with the Pimlico Special and Ben's Cat running in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint. That's going to be a special day out there Friday to get you ready for Preakness Saturday.
Yeah, you mentioned Always Dreaming, going out for a little morning coast and how good the horse looks. The horse looks too good, right? I mean, let's be honest. The horse looked too good 2 weeks ago in the slop. This is going to be an odds-on favorite situation. We haven't seen maybe a two-horse race like this in a period of time, but everyone believes this horse is going to win on Saturday.
I think Always Dreaming is going to win the Preakness. I think we're looking at a Triple Crown winner this year. He's very talented. He has the perfect body type to win these classic distances as the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont are. I think his early tactical speed allows him to have whatever kind of trip he wants. If they're going slow early, Always Dreaming and his Hall of Fame jockey, John Velasquez, they can go right to the front and control the pace. But if there's some other speed out there in front early, he can sit a stalking trip and win that way. He took a lot of pressure the whole way around. And a lot of people said maybe he was on the best part of the racetrack at Churchill for the Derby down there on the inside. But he was part of a very, very fast early pace. He was taking pressure from all around him. And some of those horses that were up front with him early on, they were towards the back of the field come the finish line. But Always Dreaming kept going around there the whole way. So I think he'll win the Preakness and the Belmont. You'll see something special. He'll march right to the front in the Belmont and just blow the field away. I think he's a special horse. His trainer, Todd Fletcher, a class act. He won the Derby with Super Sabre a few years back and didn't get lucky in Baltimore, but I think Todd Fletcher gets lucky in Baltimore this Saturday with Always Dreaming.
My man Stan Salter is talking horse racing here. He talks horse racing all the time out on Twitter at MD Horse Radio, and we've known each other a long time. I know your incredible passion for all of this, but part of the word this week, Stan, is that we may be winding down at Pimlico and heading to Laurel, another one of your headquarters down there. I feel like this is being sold out to the media. This is the direction that they'd like to go. I don't know that they're ever going to get the blessing of the city to do that, but we've been horsing around with Pimlico for years and years as far as a facility, and it's almost tapped out for what can be done over there, and I know there's bigger potential at Laurel, and this is going to continue to be a storyline in the coming years, I think.
Well, I think everything is going to work out perfectly, and I about 10, 12 years ago, I predicted that in 2005, when I started my radio show, I predicted there was going to be a renaissance with male and horse racing, and things were going to make a resurgence, and the breeding industry was going to come back, and everything was going to be great. And that's what's going on right now. We just saw a 22% increase in handle at the recently concluded Laurel Park Winter Spring Meet. The breeding industry is on the uptick. Maryland horse racing and breeding, the whole industry is back in a strong way. And I think I'm dead right about this here going forward. In the next 5 years, you're going to see 2 brand new racetracks here in Maryland. One down at Laurel Park, that's already underway. They've spent about 25, 30 million improvements down there already at Laurel Park. This summer, we will find out from the Breeders' Cup whether or not the Breeders' Cup, the World Thoroughbred Championships, is coming to Laurel Park in either year 2020 or 2021. The answer is going to be yes. The Breeders' Cup will come to Laurel. It's just a question of what year, either 2020 or 2021. So we'll find out this summer about that. So then you have to ask yourself, well, and then once we get the green light for that, they'll put about another 150 million into making Laurel Park one of the nicest racetracks in the country. So if it's one of the nicest racetracks in the country, it can hold the Breeders' Cup, then sure, it can hold a race like the Preakness. And so now back to the Preakness in Baltimore. The Preakness is one of the most famous horse races in the world. It deserves one of the most famous racetracks in the world, and I think that's what it's going to get. The city of Baltimore, it's a simple math thing. I saw the number the other night. The economic impact for the Preakness is about $35 million. So if you have a new facility, the economic impact will be about $40, $50 million. So I flunked algebra in high school. I had to retake it. But this is simple math. Say $35 million times 10 years, that's $350. Times 20 years, that's $700 million. And like I said, with a new facility that might cost $500, $700 million, that new facility in Baltimore will repay itself 10, 20 years. So the city of Baltimore is gonna build a new Pimlico. They approved the $500 million, the $600 million TIF down there at South Baltimore. That's great. I was a big proponent of that. I helped support that. That's great what they're doing down in South Baltimore, Port Tuffington. I applaud that. And they're going to have to. They can't say no. They're going to have to do the exact same thing in North Baltimore. If they can spend $600 million in South Baltimore, then they can spend $600 million in North Baltimore, and we'll have a new Pimlico, and we'll have one of the nicest racetracks in the country in Baltimore for the Preakness.
Sometimes I think you're a dreamer, Stan, but I know always dreaming is part of this thing, so we shall see. I've only been hearing about this my entire life, so I'll believe it when I see it. But hey, we got a football team here, and for a long time we didn't think we were going to have a football team. I've heard about this super track coming for years and years. I spent a lot of breath talking about it. But for here and for now, we've got a hell of a race this week. You talk about Pletcher. I had Bob Baffert on the show earlier, Stan. I reached him out on the West Coast. There's something missing when he's not here, right? I mean, it's sort of like the All-Star game when, you don't have Barry Bonds in it or whatever, right? He's the biggest star in the sport. Him not being here and Mastery and the things that went wrong for him back in the early part of the spring, I think it suffers when he's not around.
Well, I mean, certainly he's in the Hall of Fame, and he won the last Triple Crown with American Pharoah a couple of years ago. And so we love having Bob in town. So it's we're sad we don't have him in town this year, but we got the coach Dwayne Lucas. He's in town, and we have Todd Pletcher. Todd Pletcher's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. That's a done deal. Make room for him in the Hall of Fame right now. And Tom Pletcher came up under Dwayne Lucas. Pletcher, one of the classiest, nicest guys, most hard-working people in the sport. You won't find anybody in horse racing that works harder than Tom Pletcher. So it's great to have him in town. Great to have Lucas in town. We have a bunch of other top trainers in town. Mark Cassie, trainer, Classic Empire's in town. Neil Howard, trainer, Summer Squall. Neil Howard's in town. Graham Motion will be running some horses down here. Shug McGahee. We're going to have the best trainers, best jockeys in the country at Pimlico Friday and Saturday.
Stan Salter joining us here. It is MD Horse Radio. Of course, Stan, our former intern around here, who has always loved the racing game. And if you're ever at Laurel or Pimlico and look up on the video screens, he is that good-looking guy over there. Royal Mo was a horse that we thought was going to get into this field, maybe contend, and not having run in the Kentucky Derby. That was a huge loss for the race 2 weeks ago as well, yeah?
That was unfortunate. You never like to see that. The horse is trained by one of the best in the business, John Sheriff, the trainer of Zenyatta, and they had Gary Stevens, the Hall of Famer, in town to work the horse. The horse was sitting on a big race down there at Churchill on the AE for the Derby. He didn't draw in, but he arrived on the same flight that Always Dreaming did that Tuesday after the Derby. And what a good-looking horse he was. He was galloping well on the track those first couple of days before the work. And it was Gary. Hats off to John Sheriffs for having Gary Stevens come in, and Gary Stevens flew a red eye from California to work the horse, and he detected early on that something wasn't going well in the work, and he got the horse pulled up in time where they'll be able to save the horse. His racing career is over, but they sent him to New Bolton, best equine animal hospital in the country. They had successful surgery on his ankle. It looks like the chances look very good that they'll be able to save him, and he's by Uncle Mo, and he's a greatest stakes winner, so he'll go on to be he'll be down there in Kentucky, Nestor, getting about 100 mares a year. So Royal Mo has some bright days ahead.
Stan, for Always Dreaming and the trip that this horse had in the Kentucky Derby and the slop out in front, I know it wasn't like a record time or anything like that, and you can't expect that across that kind of track, but a really, really impressive Kentucky Derby when you look back upon where the horse came from, where it went, and how at the end of the race there were 15 other muddy horses out there, and one horse that didn't want to run at all. And, here's this horse looking like it was a perfect day, and the jockey looked like he could have worn the silks in the next race.
He had to run hard, Always Dreaming. He had to run hard in the Derby. He repelled all challengers early, and then he had a stout challenger late as well. Looking at Lee, who came with the rally up the inside, looking at Lee looked like he was going to go right on by Always Dreaming. But Always Dreaming had some more gears left in the stretch. He ran a hard race in the Derby, and it's his early tactical speed that puts himself in good position early on. And then just his stamina and talent where he could get the mile and a quarter. He only has to go a mile and 3/16 in the Preakness, and I think he'll win. And talking to Todd Pletcher, he doesn't have to go to the front with this horse. He can stalk. Classic Empire, who's going to break right to the outside of Always Dreaming. Classic Empire actually might have the tactical advantage on Always Dreaming going into that first turn because Classic Empire and his jockey, Julian Laperoux, they can sit right to the outside of Always Dreaming and kind of target that horse. And, if he's going slow, they can go to the front. Or talking to trainer Mark Cassie, his dream trip with Classic Empire is to have Always Dreaming out there early with another speed horse in the race, Conquest Mo Money, and Classic Empire sitting third, stalking off those two. If you ask Todd Pletcher, Todd Pletcher thinks that his horse can either go to the front and try to get an easy lead, or if there's a fast early pace, Todd Pletcher's thinking his horse, Always Dreaming, can stalk and rate as well. He wasn't in front every step of the way down there in the Derby. They were challenging him early and late, but I think he's a real good horse. He's undefeated this year. He's undefeated in the Todd Pletcher barn. He's by Bodemeister, who ran a really good race in the Derby and Preakness to be second to I'll Have Another back in 2012. I think we're looking at the real deal, and once he gets to Preakness, once he wins the Preakness this Saturday, he'll in the Belmont, you might see something special. He'll march right to the front, and speed always wins the Belmont. Look at American Pharoah, Secretariat, etc. I think we're looking at a special horse, and for special connections, Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez.
Other animals that can stalk this horse, I've heard a lot about Hence. I mean, obviously there is a second choice in this race that may get bet down to 3-1 at Classic Empire. But, that and the draw on Wednesday night. Any thoughts about the draw and, maybe, multiplier on the rail, that sort of thing that could be helpful in this race, especially for folks out there trying to go triple on this thing or exacta?
Well, Multiplier's a very good-looking horse. I've got to see him up close the last couple of mornings. He won the Illinois Derby. He looks good training out there on the track. Looking at Lee, who was the runner-up in the Derby, he'll run a big race. He looks great. So does the other Steve Asmussen runner, Hence. I tell you what, Gunavera looks fantastic. The Classic Empire looks good, but other than I think Always Dreaming looks the best out there. And then the other two, Classic Empire looks good, but really the other two horses that have caught my eye is Gunavera. He won the Fountain of Youth down at Gulfstream, was third in the Florida Derby. Gunavera had a troubled trip in the Derby just like Classic Empire. Gunavera is a great, big, good-looking, impressive horse. He's trained fantastically here, and he'll be about maybe a 10-1 or something, Gunavera. I'll give you a long shot. This horse might be about 20-30-1, a horse that looks great. A horse is called Senior Investment for trainer Kenny McPeak. And Kenny McPeak, he's won these classic races. He won the Belmont with Sarava at about 90-1. That was one of Clem Florio's
I remember that horse, Sarava. Absolutely. Clem made a lot of money on that horse. That's correct.
Yeah, so he won. Yeah, they blow the tote board up with Sarava in the Belmont. So Kenny McPeak, he's been on the stage before. Senior Investment's a great, big, good-looking horse, very impressive. He's trained well. He just won his last race, the Grade 3 Lexington at Keeneland. So he's a good-looking horse. Other than, everyone keeps making it a two-horse race, Always Dreaming and Classic Empire. But it's a real horse race. Yes, I mean, the Derby runner-up, looking at Lee, he's kind of being overlooked. He looks great. Gunavera, Senior Investment, hence the other Asmussen horse, Multiplier. Chad Brown has a nice horse in there. Cloud Computing, Conquest Mo Money. Conquest Mo Money, he was second to Classic Empire in the Arkansas Derby. Conquest Mo Money ran his eyeballs out in the Arkansas Derby. He only got beat by about a neck or so in the Arkansas Derby, so he'll be a big long shot, and he'll be out there. He'll be out there in front early on. That horse looks good training. So it's a real. You have 10 of the best 3-year-olds in the country. It's $1.5 million on the line. I think it's going to be much more than just a 2-horse race.
Stan, you've been at this a long time. You got your own bloodlines with your pops, who was always around the horses, and you grew up around the barns. What do you make of the 2-2-3 format here on the Derby and the Belmont, and thoughts about this? Because I'm sure it's going to come up with Pletcher this week, who really never ever runs a horse 2 weeks back to back, but is forced to do that with the best 3-year-old on earth right now.
The Triple Crown Series, it's very challenging. That's why you've only had 12 or 13 that have won the Triple Crown. Ideally, when they set it up over 100 years ago, they would have had 3 weeks in between each races, and maybe even more ideally when they invented this thing over 100 years ago, they would have had the Triple Crown for 4-year-olds, because I think racehorses are better when they're 4 rather than when they're 3. You have to have a certain kind of horse that's ready to win at the young age of 3 in the first half of the 3-year-old career. A lot of horses don't find their best stride until late in their 3-year-old year, and then the older handicap division. If you bring Arrogate, the best horse in the world right now, who won the Pegasus World Cup and the Dubai World Cup, he won the Breeders' Cup, Classic last fall. I mean, if you brought Arrogate and against this field. No disrespect to the Preakness field. I mean, Always Dreaming, there's some nice horses in there, but Arrogate would blow them away. I mean, your best horse in the world is your older horse, who's like a 4 or 5-year-old. But that said, history is history. You got to go with tradition. It is what it is. It's Triple Crowns for 3-year-olds, and only a special horse can be as good as you have to be early on in their 3-year-old career, and run 1.25 miles first Saturday in May, and then come back in 2 weeks and 1 3/16 in the Preakness, and then oh, by the way, 3 weeks after that, let's see if you can get 1.5 miles for the first time in your life. So it's a very challenging, grueling campaign, and that's why you've only seen a small handful of Triple Crown winners, and it's tough to do.
Stan, always appreciate your insights, always have. We're going to send everybody out to MD Horse Radio to follow Stanton Salter, my one-time intern, longtime friend, and horse racing mentor. He is the good-looking guy, usually wearing a pony tie up there on the televisions. If you're in and around the Black-Eyed Susan this weekend, if you're out there wearing pink, you'll have your pink on Friday, right, Stan?
Yeah, I have a pink tie. My co-host, Gabby Goldesh, she got me a pink tie for Friday.
By the way, she's much, much better looking than you. I'm sure that's been pointed out. That's correct.
She is, and she's very hardworking and knowledgeable, and it's great to work with her. She got me a pink tie for Friday, so I'm lucky to work with her, and she's very nice as well. And I have a blue bow tie I'm going to wear with a pink shirt on Saturday.
All right, well, I mean, you're going to look good. We'll see how Always Dreaming looks on Saturday, and we'll see if we get out of this thing with 3 weeks to go for a potential Triple Crown winner. Stan, always great to visit with you, man. Have fun out there at the track. Stay cool. It's going to be a hot one.
Thanks so much for having me on, Nestor. Always a pleasure catching up with you. And tell Jen I said hello, and hope to see you guys soon. I
appreciate you, man. Stan Salter joining us here live via satellite from Old Hilltop out at Pimlico. Hi-ho, Pimlico. I'm in the buyatoyota.com audio vault all weekend long for anything you miss here. We've had incredible conversations with Kenny Mayne. We've talked to Donna Brothers. We've talked to Lafitte Pinkai. We've talked to Bob Baffert. We're doing tons of horse racing around here. Dick Girardi, Marty McGee, whole host of folks from the Daily Racing Forum. No one will have better Preakness coverage than we do here at WNST.net. I'm out on Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And you can always check us out on Twitter, where we never stop talking. You can also email me anytime, nasty@WNST.net. We got Nashville, Green Bay, London on sale for the Ravens road trips right now. And I'm in the cockpit watching a lot of Orioles baseball, getting ready for the Blue Jays to get in here this weekend. We're getting ready for these OTAs with the Ravens as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.